Hello everyone, this is part 21 of What If Naruto was trained by Anko, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Sandaime had enjoyed Shikamaru's match very much. It showed an impressive talent in strategic and tactical thinking, which was something he respected very much. Shikamaru had proven that even when he was fighting with a severe handicap, he could come out on top, and even when he had forfeited the match, Sandaime deemed it more enough. Sometimes a shinobi had to run so he could fight another day instead of trying to do the impossible, and that was something not a lot of shinobi understood. He looked towards the balcony where the young genin were gathered and smiled when he saw the poor boy being questioned by his teammate. He knew of the Yamanaka temper, so he quietly wished the boy good luck. When he saw that Genma was ready to start the next match, he nodded and smiled. This time it would be two of Naruto's teammates who would be facing off, and he wondered how much they had progressed. If Naruto's own progress was anything to go by, this would be a very good match. He would have to remember to congratulate both Anko and Kurenai for doing such an excellent job in training their students. He saw that both teammates were shaking hands, and this pleased him. A bit of rivalry never hurt anybody as long as it stay healthy and friendly, but it seemed that he didn't have to worry about Kiba and Shino in that department. Just as the match was about to start, a massive genjutsu made most of the people, expect the more experienced shinobi and genin, fall asleep, and he felt someone grabbing him around his en. He was then transported to the nearby roof, and suddenly 4 Oto shinobi appeared and started doing hand seals. When they finished, a large barrier surrounded them, making it impossible for someone to get through. Kazekage-same, what are you doing? Please stop this, we can do this another way. Sandaime said, hoping he would get his fellow shinobi to see the error in his ways. He then saw dozens of shinobi enter the stadium and hoped that his own shinobi would be able to stop them from massacring his village. Kakukaku, I'm afraid that will be impossible, Sarutobi-sensei. A very familiar voice rang into Sandaime's ear. Orochimaru, so this is all you're doing? Why are you here? Sandaime said, even though he knew exactly what was going on. I'm here to see the defeat of Konoha. Orochimaru said, smirking while disposing of the Kazekage clothes he was wearing, revealing a sound uniform. You should know better than anyone that Konoha will not be destroyed that easily. And neither will I, for that matter. Sandaime said while he took the Hokage clothes off as well, which hid his old battle uniform. I see you're still wearing that old battle uniform from your old days. Nostalgic, isn't it? Orochimaru said while retreating a bit. I should have never taught you, Orochimaru. I was blinded by your talent and didn't see the person you truly were. But I'm going to correct that mistake, even if it costs me my life. Sandaime said while taking a stance ready to start the battle. You shouldn't force yourself, sensei, after all you're not so young anymore. Orochimaru said calmly. I taught you not to underestimate your opponents, and you should know that better than anyone. I'm called the professor for a reason. Sandaime said. Yes, you did teach me that, but you see, while you got older, I on the other hand only got younger. Orochimaru said while putting his hand on his cheek. He then pulled on his skin, causing it to come off, and revealed a young-looking person. You monster, you completed that jutsu, didn't you? Sandaime asked, shocked. He knew Orochimaru had been experimenting on humans to discover a way to gain immortality. That was one of the reasons he was so disappointed in his former pupil, since he TD and experimented on people from Konoha as well. That's right, I found a way to eternal life. While you and everyone else ages and eventually SS, I will live on and master every jutsu in the known world, becoming the greatest shinobi ever lived. Orochimaru said while laughing softly. I see you still don't understand what it takes to be a true shinobi. I said it before the finals started, don't you remember? It's not the number of jutsu you know that makes you a shinobi. One becomes truly strong when he defends and fights for the village and people he loves. Sandaime said, shaking his head. Still sprouting that nonsense, you old monkey. You haven't changed a bit, and I find it revolting. Change is necessary in this world, and things will start with your death. Orochimaru snickered. Even if I'm defeated today, Konoha will never be destroyed. The wall of fire will not be extinguished by such a pitiful wind. Sandaime said while thinking of the young genins that he had witnessed fighting today. He had seen how strong they were and he had no doubt that they would protect Konoha to the best of their abilities. Orochimaru had been growing tired of talking and frankly whatever Sandaime said was pure nonsense in his eyes. The old man was growing senile in his opinion and it was time to start fighting instead of talking. He slowly raised his hands and a grin appeared on his face. He could already imagine the shock on the old man's face when he would use the next jutsu. Sandaime however wasn't about to let Orochimaru attack without retaliating and he too started to make hand seals at an astonishing speed. Orochimaru finished first and put his hands together in a special seal and said, Kuchio's no jutsu, Edo Tensei, before a coffin with the kanji for 1 appeared out of the ground. Not a second later a second coffin with the number 2 joined the first one. Orochimaru was ecstatic and continued hoping the next coffin would appear as well. Sarutobi who had recognized the jutsu after the first coffin appeared yelled out, Kage Shuriken Bunshin no Jutsu, hoping to stop Orochimaru from summoning the next coffin. Unfortunately, he was too late to prevent the second coffin but he had managed to stop the last one. Of all the jutsu in world, he had to use that one. This will be harder than I thought. Sandaime mused. Orochimaru was somewhat disappointed that the last coffin didn't work but in the end it didn't matter, these two would be more than enough to deal with the old monkey. The coffins opened revealing two shinobi and before Sandaime could stop him Orochimaru planted a kunai with a seal inside the skulls of the shinobi. A second later they opened their eyes and looked straight at Sarutobi. It's been a while since we've seen each other, hasn't it, young Sarutobi? The man who came out of the first coffin said. Indeed it has Shodaime-sama, Nadaime-sama. Sandaime said acknowledging the two men in front of him. He felt a small tear form in his eyes from seeing his two senseis again. These were the men who had taught him what it meant to be a shinobi of Konoha. They had been the ones who inspired him to become Hokage and protect this village and its inhabitants to his fullest potential. It seems that we are on opposite sides today, young one. A chance to see how much you have grown over the years. Nadaime said looking at his former student. Alright, enough talking already. You can get nostalgic after you guys meet in the afterlife. Orochimaru said ordering them to attack Sandaime. Seeing that they were controlled by him, the two former Hokages didn't have a choice and started attacking. The Sandaime's face grew hard and he too got ready to attack or defend. Sandaime had been fighting for over half an hour now and he was getting tired. He was in his 60s and he didn't have the same abilities like he did in his prime. After summoning Enma, which had taken a reasonable amount of chakra, the fight had been going better, but using his staff he noticed that he started to have problems to keep up. He had to admit that Orochimaru was a formidable opponent. Supplying enough chakra to allow the Shodaime and Nadaime to use their trademark jutsus would mean that he became very strong. Sandaime was trying to come up with a plan to deal with this difficult situation, but no matter how much he racked his brain nothing seemed to come up. At this rate he would be defeated and Orochimaru would have succeeded in at least one of his goals and Sandaime would be damned if he gave him the satisfaction. He was preparing for another attack when he suddenly heard a familiar voice above of him. All four men looked up and saw a huge ball of chakra impact on the barrier and Sandaime looked surprised as he had seen what happened to the Anbu who had tried to get through the barrier. He wondered what had possessed Naruto to risk his life to try to get inside. Orochimaru too looked surprised at Naruto's actions but figured that he would just fail in his attempt to break through it. To his amazement he saw that slowly but surely the barrier seemed to give way to the attack, opening a hole. Just then the ball of chakra exploded and opened a hole large enough for several people to fit through, and not half a second later a blonde shinobi crashed on the roof right between Sandaime and his attackers. The barrier however closed again before anyone else could get in or out. Wow, it worked. Have to work on the landing though. Naruto said loudly, commenting on his attack. Naruto, what was that? How did you get inside the barrier? Sandaime said, shocked. Of course it's me, like I would sit still while you were in trouble. And that was my Udama Rasengan, a modification I made on the normal Rasengan. Naruto said while taking his stance alongside his adoptive grandfather. Are you insane? There's no way you can compete with a Sannin and two former Hokages. Sandaime yelled at him. I know that and I'm not here to defeat them, I'm here to help you. I'll distract them and you finish them before they finish us. Isn't that how Konoha shinobi work? Teamwork, Naruto said, frowning. He knew better than anyone else what his level was and that there was no way he could defeat such strong opponents. Besides, didn't you make a promise to a certain someone to be there at her wedding? Kukukaku, Naruto-kun, I congratulate you for getting inside, but that was a foolish thing to do. Now I'll have to dispose of you as well. A genin like yourself has no chance of coming out of this fight alive. Orochimaru said while grinning crazy. You're Orochimaru, huh? I promised a very special person that I wouldn't seek you out to kick your ass. But I did promise that I would protect everyone from you if I ever had the misfortune of meeting you. Naruto said calmly. Orochimaru, while outwardly unfazed, was getting irritated by this blonde shinobi. First he defeated Gaara, ruining that part of his plan to destroy Konoha, and now he managed to get inside a barrier that he thought was impossible to break into, joining the old man in the fight. While he was sure Naruto wouldn't be that much trouble, he had a bad feeling about this and he was going to finish this as soon as possible. Naruto, we need to destroy the seal inside their heads, that's the only way that their souls can once again ascend to the heavens. Sandaime said quickly, hoping that with Naruto's help he would be able to free his former teachers from Orochimaru. Even if we destroy their boss, they'll regenerate. Got it. I suppose Snake Face over there is supplying them with the necessary chakra. Naruto said, looking at Sandaime, who nodded. He's been giving them chakra for a while now, so hopefully he'll be running out soon enough. Despite the situation being serious, Sandaime couldn't help but let a chuckle escape when he heard Naruto insulting Orochimaru. Only Naruto would have the guts to insult one of the strongest shinobi in the lands without worrying about what could happen. Yeah, but we can't count on that since he is a Sannin. We'll have to take them down first, and after that we can worry about Snake Face. He said, using Naruto's insult making Orochimaru sneer at them. Naruto nodded and took a deep breath. He would be facing two former Hokages and he would need to concentrate and attack carefully. He couldn't afford any mistake, as that would get him killed for sure, which would make Anko resurrect him only to kill him again. He was sure of that. She could be a real handful if she got mad at him. Luckily that only happened once in a while, but still, no need to get careless. He took a stance and prepared to attack. Sandaime too got ready and he grabbed the staff beside him with both arms. Alright, let's get this show on a run. I have some things planned for tonight, Naruto said while making several Kage Bunshin who surrounded both of them. Orochimaru was getting slightly angered at the blonde behavior. Here was a genin who was facing two former Hokages and a Sannin, and he was acting like this was everyday business to him. At first he found the young genin amusing, but that had quickly passed with the name calling and insults. The problem was that the blonde Gaki was right about him supplying the necessary chakra for the Shodaime and the Nadaime. Supplying them both with chakra ate away his reserves, and he guessed that he would only have enough for another half hour of fighting. Not only that, but he was getting tired, just like the kid said. He had expected to KO the Sandaime quickly and then make his way out of the village, letting his subordinates take care of the rest. He had underestimated the old man, thinking that his old age would make him weaker, which was true to a certain extent, but he hadn't taken his experience into consideration. He used the jutsu in the hope that the old fool would be emotional distressed by seeing him again, but it seemed he was wrong. Seeing that they were waiting for him to attack, Naruto was only happy to oblige and started by sending several Kage Bunshin towards the Shodaime. They didn't get far, however, as they were destroyed by a tree root that grew out of the ground. However, Naruto had used the resulting smoke created by the Bunshin being destroyed to hide his next attack. He quickly summoned several of his throwing knives and aimed for the Shodaime. Of course, the Shodaime wasn't a Hokage for nothing and saw the attack coming and used his Mokuton Jutsu to raise a shield to protect him from the knives. To his surprise, the knives just went straight through his shield, embedding into his chest. Naruto wasn't finished, however, and made a hand seal which made the exploding tags he had put around the knives explode. Satisfied that the Shodaime was temporarily taken care of, Naruto focused on the fight between the Sandaime and the Nadaime. Sarutobi had seen that Naruto engaged Shodaime and started his own attack. His staff was very special since it was as hard as diamond and could deliver some serious damage. He could also change its length at will, making it possible to do both a close range and mid-range attack. He knew how his former teacher fought, and even if Orochimaru was the one to supply the chakra, that wouldn't change, so he had an advantage and he would use to its fullest possibilities. Sandaime took his staff and started attacking, striking from any angle possible, making the Nadaime retreat backwards. Soon Sandaime was breathing heavily, these attacks were wearing on his stamina and if he kept this up he wouldn't last much longer. The Naruto noticed this as well and prepared an attack aimed at the old Hokage. Sandaime recognized the handseals and cursed, this was one of the strongest Suten jutsu called, Suten, Suiruden no Jutsu. When the water dragon was about to hit him, two of Naruto's cage bunshin grabbed the Sandaime and jumped out of the way. He nodded before once again attacking with the help of the bunshins. Naruto was watching how the Shodaime who had reformed his body and marveled at how he made several bunshin made out of wood. This was the man who had founded Konoha and had created the woods around the village, and Naruto felt a shiver of anticipation run through his body. He made no disillusions, he knew that he had no chance of winning against this man had he been fighting the real deal, but seeing as Orochimaru was supplying both of them with chakra, he couldn't waste any chakra with flashy techniques. Naruto grabbed his sword and channeled some chakra into the seal. He still had several bunshin left, so he wasted no time and attacked. Cage bunshin met Moku bunshin, and even though the Moku bunshin had the stronger body, Naruto's bunshin were equipped with a sword that could cut through virtually anything. While the clones were facing each other, Naruto used one of his favorite kenjutsu techniques, Tenjukei Seiden no Jutsu, only to have it impact on a thick wooden shield, cutting it almost all the way through. Shodaime just grew several branches and ordered them to attack Naruto, who had a hard time evading and cutting through them. Naruto raised his sword to use another technique, but a branch slammed into his chest, sending him across the area. When he crashed, Naruto coughed up some blood before standing up again. Wow, that hurt a lot. Can't receive much of those, or not even my fast healing will be able to keep me alive. Naruto thought. Those branches are just as bad as Gaara's sand, he can control them at will, making it almost impossible to get close. Naruto sheathed his sword and summoned something that resembled the handle of a sword but without the blade that he had stored in his holster. He had come up with an idea to attack from a distance, but this would be the first he used the jutsu in a real combat. He put the handle into his mouth and started to make some seals before he said, Kaiten, Kain Mushi no Jutsu, before breathing out a long thin thread of fire that seemed to be attached to the handle. Grabbing the handle from his mouth, he brought the whip made of fire down onto the wood of the branch he was standing on, making a long gash which burned for a few moments. The whip would remain as long as he channeled chakra into the handle, just like his sword, and was capable of burning almost anything. Unfortunately, this attack took way more chakra than his sword did, so he was taking a gamble. Making several cage bunshin, each with their own whip, he started his attack and he slashed his whip around before bringing it down, aimed at the Shodaime. Several branches shot out of the ground and stopped the whip from hitting him in the face. After stopping the whip, the branches shot at Naruto, but before they could reach him, his clones grabbed onto the branches with their whips and pulled them out of Naruto's way, giving him a free path straight to the Shodaime. Two other clones got closer and ensnared the Shodaime's arms with their whip, holding him in place. Naruto, seeing an opportunity, dropped his whip and quickly made some handseals and yelled out, Kaiten, Kainya no Jutsu, making several arrows of fire shooting out of his mouth at an enormous speed, hitting the Shodaime straight into his head, destroying it at the same time, as well as the seal embedded into his skull. Surprised that his attack worked, he saw how the body crumpled, revealing a corpse that Naruto recognized as one of the sound genin, indicating that the Shodaime's soul had been released from Orochimaru's jutsu. He was breathing heavily since maintaining several cage bunshin with a Kain Mushi took quite some chakra, but he figured he would be fine in a few minutes to go help his Jichin fighting. Orochimaru was seething. That blonde took out the Shodaime. While it was true that this Shodaime wasn't fighting to the fullest of his capacities, maybe not even at the half of his strength, and that the chakra he was able to supply was anything but extraordinary, this was still an incredible strong opponent to defeat. He once again underestimated his enemy. He had wanted to save some chakra and had deemed that the Naruto needed more chakra since he was fighting the old man. Therefore he had only given the Shodaime the bare minimum of chakra, just enough to do several jutsu and use the wood element, thinking that would be more than enough to deal with the genin. The Shodaime was just above Junin level when that obnoxious brat defeated him. He was regretting that now, he should have dealt with him first and then focus on the old man. Still, he had the Naruto who seemed to be having the upper hand in the fight, and hopefully that would be enough to dispose of those two pests. Sandaime had not been faring well since several minutes. He was exhausted and his arms were heavy from carrying the staff and using it to attack. So far he hadn't been able to deal a finishing blow, though he had taken several hits himself. The regeneration of the Nadaim was a serious thorn in his side and he wondered if he would get out of this battle alive. But there was no way he would give up now. He had to protect the village, so as long as his body didn't break down he would fight just like he did during the wars he had fought. Naruto's cage buncheons had long been destroyed and he lacked the necessary chakra to make his own. He cursed as his knees hit the ground, showing him just how tired he was. He tried to get up but his body refused to move, and when he saw one of the Nadaim's water dragons coming his way he closed his eyes waiting for the attack to hit. Futon. Kamikaze no Jutsu. When he heard Naruto's voice from before him he opened his eyes and saw how Naruto and himself were surrounded by a barrier made out of wind. The barrier literally created an upwards wind protecting them. Not only that, but it seemed that the winds cut everything around them and even the water dragon didn't survive the onslaught. The Nadaim and Orochimaru were forced to evade several of the cutting winds lest they wanted to be cut into pieces by it. When the winds disappeared, the Sandaime Hokage was shocked to see the destruction the Jutsu had made. Inside the barrier made by the Sound Shinobi almost everything had traces of being cut by the winds. The only place that hadn't taken any damage was inside the wind barrier where Naruto and himself had been. Naruto, what the hell was that jutsu? Sandaime asked at his partner. He, that was one of my strongest jutsu. It's called Kamikaze no Jutsu, and it destroys everything around it while protecting those inside. Naruto said while falling to one knee from exhaustion. Too bad it takes so much chakra to use it though. I probably won't be able to use it anymore. Divine winds. It sure looks like it's a punishment from the gods. The damage is enormous. Sandaime said, still shocked at the results of Naruto's jutsu. He wondered how Naruto came up with all these jutsu. He truly had a gift at making new jutsu that was sure. In the meanwhile, Orochimaru was catching his breath. That jutsu had surprised him and he had even panicked a little when he felt several of those winds pass him at great speeds. He was sure that he would have been seriously hurt if he had gotten hit. Where the hell did he learn a jutsu like that? He asked himself. Kabuto told him that he was known for making his own jutsu, but he thought that they would be useless jutsu only of use to a genin. Never had he imagined the kid to make such devastating and powerful jutsu like that. He would have to get rid of the kid before he got too strong. If he let him live he would become a danger to his future plans, and that was something he couldn't allow. God damn it, I should have dealt with him straight from the beginning. Soon I'll be out of chakra to supply the Nadaime, and facing the two of them would prove to be dangerous. Orochimaru thought. This resurrection jutsu has more disadvantages than I originally thought. Not being able to attack myself was a huge miscalculation. Naruto stood up after resting a bit, profiting of the fact that Orochimaru seemed to be in deep thoughts. He had spent a lot of chakra defeating the Shodaime and using that last jutsu. He knew, however, that the Sandaime was even worse off than he was, judging from the heavy breathing he was doing. They would have to defeat the Nadaime quickly and hoped that Orochimaru was too tired to fight the both of them. He pulled out a soldier pill out of his pouch and quickly ate it, restoring some of his chakra. He would have given one to Sandaime, but he knew that the old man's body wouldn't be able to take it. The soldier pill was a special pill that returned some of the lost chakra and energy, but it also put a heavy strain on the body. That's why you couldn't take soldier pills too soon after another. Jichin, I'll distract him and drive him towards you. When you see an opening, don't hesitate and finish it. Naruto whispered. Just rest for now and gather some strength, okay? Sandaime nodded, though he was kind of mad that he was the one who needed to be protected, but there was nothing he could do about that right now. He would have to swallow his pride and wait for the perfect time to strike. Naruto was a little worried. The pill he had taken restored some chakra, but it wasn't nearly enough to his taste. He would have to save some of it for afterwards, but right now he had to deal with the Nadaime in front of him. He made several cage buncheon and ordered them to protect the Sandaime while he rested. He took out his sword again and jumped forward to attack, slashing at his opponent. The Nadaime evaded the attacks with relative ease and started to push Naruto back with his own attacks. They matched each other blow for blow, but it seemed like Naruto was losing the exchange and Sandaime tried to get up. Before he could get up, however, a cage buncheon put his hand on his shoulders while shaking his head. Sandaime nodded and sat back down. Is this part of your plan, Naruto? What are you aiming for? Sandaime thought while focusing on the fight. Naruto was slowly moving in Orochimaru's line of sight. As long as Orochimaru could see them, he could warn the Nadaime of an attack from Sandaime, and that was exactly what he didn't want. By guiding himself directly in front of Orochimaru, he would take care of that. He had someone in mind to help him with his plan, but he needed to be patient. Not an easy thing when one of the strongest shinobi ever was attacking you with the intent to kill you. He signaled one of his clones to get ready and to inform the Sandaime of his plan. Jichin, when Naruto distracts them, he wants you to ask Enma to grab the Nadaime and hold him so you can destroy the seal inside. The clone whispered. Sandaime nodded slightly, showing he understood even if he didn't know what distraction Naruto was going to use. Naruto had finally reached his desired location and he dropped his sword quickly after running his thumb across the blade, making it bleed. He then did several seals before slamming his hand into the ground and yelled, "Kuchio's no jutsu." A huge cloud appeared and a large toad came out of it, blocking everything from Orochimaru's sight. Naruto hoped the attack worked since this had cost him almost all of his remaining chakra. Sandaime leaped into action with Enma grabbing Nadaime by surprise. He took out one of the knives Naruto had made for him and espered it into the Nadaime's skull, destroying the seal. The Nadaime's body crumpled before his eyes and Sarutobi quickly apologized to his one-time teacher before turning towards Naruto. Orochimaru couldn't believe what just happened. He had been played by a mere genin. No seeing anything because of the large toad in front of him, he felt his control on the Nadaime disappear and knew he was defeated. This meant that he would be fighting them 2-1. Sure, they may be an old man and a genin who were tired and exhausted after fighting such formidable opponent, but he too was almost out of chakra. His plan to kill his old sensei and destroy this pathetic village had not gone the way he had imagined it. He turned towards the two Konoha shinobi when he heard the Sandaime's voice calling him. Orochimaru, your plan has failed. Give it up, you can't win. It's over. Sandaime yelled loudly. Shut up, old man. This isn't over yet, Orochimaru exclaimed before he opened his mouth and a sword appeared. This was the legendary Kusanagi sword and it was one of the strongest swords ever made. Orochimaru grabbed it and rushed over towards the old Hokage, intending to strike him right in the heart. The Sandaime, however, was incapable of moving from exhaustion and could only watch as his death came running towards him. Naruto, however, wouldn't let Orochimaru take one of his precious people away from him, so with his last strength he jumped in front of the Sandaime and took the hit in his place. He cried out in pain when he felt the blade his right side, narrowly missing a vital spot. Orochimaru, who didn't suspect that the kid would take the blow, could only smirk at the sight. Sure, he wanted to deal with the old man first, but this was just as good. He started laughing but stopped quickly when Naruto grabbed his arms with so much strength that he couldn't break free. He looked at Naruto and saw that he was smiling. Hey snake face, I'm sure you know who I am, right? So you know that the Kyuubi is sealed inside me. Naruto said while coughing up some blood. So what? Don't think you scare me, you pitiful genin. Orochimaru sneered at Naruto. I'm not trying to scare you. Did you know that I'm unable to use medical jutsu? Medical jutsu requires raw chakra to heal wounds, however there's a small side effect from having the Kyuubi sealed inside me. Naruto said while putting some pressure on Orochimaru's arms. When Orochimaru looked at Naruto's hands, he saw that chakra with a reddish tint was gathered around them and winced when he felt 10 claws made of chakra his skin. When I trained, I found out that my raw chakra always has a very small amount of Kyuubi's chakra mixed with it, making it unusable for medical jutsu. Do you want to know why? Naruto said, not really asking. It's because the Kyuubi's chakra is poisonous to anyone but myself. It's so potent that even the smallest bit can cause severe damage. Naruto then used his claws to cut up Orochimaru's arms from the shoulders to his wrists, making Orochimaru scream out in pain. Orochimaru staggered back from the pain in his arms. He felt like they were burning up from the inside. Ah, what did you do to me? What is this jutsu? Orochimaru snarled at Naruto. It burns, doesn't it? At this very moment that small amount of Kyuubi's chakra is destroying your chakra coils inside your arms, making it impossible to ever use jutsus again. Not only that, your muscles and blood vessels are being destroyed as well, rendering your arms completely useless. Naruto smirked while falling down. The wound made from the Kusanagi was bleeding badly and it hurt like hell as well. Orochimaru couldn't believe what he was hearing. His arms had been destroyed by a genin. His ambition and dreams would end because of the Kyuubi container. No, there was no way he would accept that to happen. The pain, however, was getting too much for even him and retreat was the only option. For now he would let them live, but he would get his revenge eventually, he would make sure of that. You'll pay for this, Uzumaki Naruto. I swear that I will see you and this village destroyed. Next time we meet will be the day count on that. Retreat. Orochimaru yelled out, and immediately the 4 nin who held up the barrier were at his side helping him up before jumping away from the roof. Sarutobi slowly got up and made his way over to Naruto to help him with his wound. Even though he knew about his healing factor, he was still worried about his adoptive grandson. He had been very impressed with Naruto, not only fighting a Jinchuriki like himself and winning, but then fighting not 1 but 2 former Hokages and injuring a Sannin was beyond anything he had expected from the boy. He sat down next to him and saw that Naruto was looking up at the sky with a huge smile on his face, and Sandaime too couldn't help but fall on his back and look up at the blue sky. They had survived a battle only described in legends, and both of them were sure that this fight would be talked about for years. Hokage-sama, are you okay? Do you need a medic? The Anbu captain asked. They had seen the entire battle from outside the barrier and they were very impressed by Naruto. Never had they seen a battle like that before, and the fact that a genin was one of the fighters was nothing short of amazing. We're fine, Anbu-san. Do not concern yourself with us, go help the others in securing the village. The Hokage said tiredly. The village was his main concern right now. Hi, Hokage-sama. We have reports that indicated that the counterattack worked perfectly. The last of the enemy shinobi are being rounded up and taken in for questioning. It seemed that Sabaku no Gaara personally stopped many of the Suna shinobi from attacking, making the enemy force much smaller than anticipated. The Anbu captain said. Very well, I expect your rapport on my desk in 2 days. For now, help the rest. Sandaime said, dismissing the Anbu. It seems you made a real good impression on Gaara if he wanted to help our village. Yeah, I guess so. What will happen to them, Jichin? Are they going to be punished? Naruto asked, a little worried for his newest friend. Do not worry, Naruto, I will personally see to it that Gaara and his teammates are treated well and with respect. We owe him a great deal for stopping his fellow shinobi from attacking. Sandaime said with a smile on his wrinkled face. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes, thinking about all the things that had happened today. Surely he would be remembering the day for a very long time. He sure hoped he wouldn't have to fight in a battle like that again anytime soon. If he learned one thing from this battle, it was that he still had lots of improvement and training to do, but that would have to wait until he was rested and healed. The wound from Orochimaru's sword was already healing, but he could feel that it would take a few days before he would be 100% again. Just then he heard a very familiar voice calling him, and it seemed to be a very angry voice as well. Uzumaki Naruto. What the hell were you thinking fighting Orochimaru like that? The voice yelled before he felt someone help him up and hugging him very tightly. He recognized his girlfriend and returned the hug. Not a second later he felt a fist hitting him on the head, remembering him that she was pissed beyond belief. Hey Anko-chan, I can explain really. I didn't mean to fight him, but I couldn't let Jichin fight alone. Naruto said, trying to calm her down. Oi, Jichin, help me out here, will you? Don't bring me into this, Naruto, you brought this upon yourself. Sandaime said, laughing loudly. The other Junin senseis had gathered as well after seeing Anko storm off. Hey, what happened to Konoha's famous teamwork? Some partner you turn out to be. Naruto said while glaring at the Sandaime, causing more people to laugh. Do you have any idea what I went through when I saw you breaking through that barrier? Ha, I swear to God, if you ever pull a stunt like that again, I don't know what I will do yet, but it's going to hurt as hell. Do you hear me, Uzumaki Naruto? Anko yelled at him while holding a kunai close to his hi Anko-sama. Naruto squeaked, earning some more laughs from the crowd. Good, Anko said before she grabbed him by the collar and kissed him in front of everybody. Naruto was a little shocked that she would kiss him in front of all her colleagues, but soon he kissed her back, glad that both of them were fine and survived the attack on their village. Since none of them except Kurenai knew they were a couple, most were staring at the two of them in disbelief. Here was one of the seest kunoiki in Konoha, one that a lot of men chased after, and Naruto was the one she was kissing. Kurenai laughed at the men's faces and the fact that she could almost feel a bit of envy and jealousy in the air coming from the men. When she was satisfied from the kiss, Anko released him and held him close, not wanting to let him go. Naruto, of course, was only happy to return the hug. Anko-chan, how is everybody else? Is everyone okay? Naruto asked while stifling a yawn. He was having trouble staying awake after all this fighting. Everyone's fine, don't worry. They all did fantastic, you have made us all very proud. She said, smiling at him. Good, if you don't mind, I would like to take a little nap right now. I feel a little tired, Naruto said while closing his eyes. Anko nodded and she sat down so he could lie down. The rest of the Junin was surprised to see Anko react this way since she was known to be a bit eccentric to say the least. Seeing her like this, they knew Naruto must have a huge influence on her, and most of them were glad to see the two of them so happy. They all knew about how Anko and Naruto were treated sometimes in the village because of their pasts. The Sandaime struggled to get up and was helped by Guy, who was shouting how youthful his Hokage must be if he still had the strength to get up after the fight. Luckily the others distracted him when they told him to go check up on Lee, which made him leave in a hurry. They liked the man, but his shouting was something that they could do without at the moment, so better to deal with it this way. The Sandaime walked to the edge of the roof and looked over the village and sighed happily. Though there was lot of damage, Konoha had survived an attack head-on and he had survived, but he had made up his mind. One thing Orochimaru had said was true, things would have to change to ensure their survival. Konoha had been stagnant for too long. He would deal with that in a few days though, now he needed a rest and then things would start happening again. That will be all for this video, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.